Okay, hi, it's Tracy here with Indiana Bushcrafters and Butterfly Bushcraft, and I'm going to be doing some natural cordage making out of cattails by reverse wrap method. So I've got some here that are probably drier than I would like for them to be because they've been out in my garage for a couple weeks. If these were fresher, it would be easier. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to find like the more flexible pieces, and I'm just going to kind of start in the middle here, my fingers together, and I'm going to wrap one hand away from me and one hand toward me, and this will cause the leaf here to twist upon itself. So with my left hand I'm going away, my right hand I'm going toward, and as you can see, it's starting to twist on itself, and it's kind of important to do your best to keep your tension in both hands kind of the same. And kind of flatten it out some as you go along. As you can see here, kind of how this is starting to progress. So let's twist along a little further, and then I'll show you how to add pieces on. When you get to where you want to add pieces on, what you do is you put, when you're working with leaves or other natural material, bark, leaves, that sort of thing, a lot of times you'll have one section that's thinner and one section that's thicker. So what you would want to do is when you overlap them, when you're adding the next piece, is you would want to put the thick piece with the thin piece to try to keep the thickness of the cordage more consistent. So I haven't got to that. I haven't got that far along on here on this one yet, but we will get there. So far, my cordage is looking like this. I don't know if that's at all in focus. Maybe like that. Keep going a little bit more. And you can just keep adding as you need to. And if in the end your cordage isn't as thick as you would like for it to be, because your material was thinner, what you had available was thinner, like I made some earlier with some jute twine, and it's fairly strong, but it's fairly thin. So what I ended up doing to thicken it was I folded the cordage I had just made in the middle, and then I reverse wrapped it again on itself, going the opposite direction. If I wasn't trying to not have this be a ridiculously long video, I would be taking a little bit more time to make sure that my tension was a little more even. But I think you're getting the idea here. Video earlier today that where I had added, I had made some cordage out of jute, but I had added one strand of bank line just for color difference, so that you could see what it looks like when you add in the next piece. So I've got some nice rope going here. See if that'll focus. So yeah, with my left hand I'm going away from me, my right hand I'm going toward myself. I'll just keep going along with this until I get to where I'm going to add some. So I'm going to shut this off for now, and then I will be back when I get to the end. Okay, I've moved a little bit further down now. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to add in the next piece. I've got the next piece here, and this is a kind of thinner end, so I'm going to put a little bit thicker end in here. Getting the next piece on when you first start can be a little bit of a pain because they want to twist around each other instead of around the other piece, but it eventually will start going as well because I was doing this earlier. This part of the cordage might be a little bit thicker because it's got a double end on it. You do want to do some overlap. I would say maybe like, I don't know, 5 inches, 6 inches or so, depending on what type of your material you're using. Because you don't want a weak spot in your cord, of course. I get that piece attached, I'll start adding one to the other side. Ideally, I wouldn't be adding them both at the same point. These pieces of cattail are a little bit shorter because they were dry. I had to break the woodier parts off. Okay, I got this side going on pretty good now, so I'm gonna take this next piece and add it in here to the other side, so we keep going. If I get a sufficient length, we can do a little lifting test to see about lifting some weight with this. Okay. Strength and durability. Kind of see what that's looking like. See here, it's a little bit thicker because I got some doubled over sections where I was kind of grafting in like the next piece. So yeah, it's just a reverse wrap, for one's going one way, one's going the other way. This will become less bulky and messy looking as I get to where it's not several different sections overlaying on top of each other. Now, some people might say this would be easier just to braid it, and it might be. This wouldn't be as difficult if this were green, because really you're just twisting. This one will neaten up some too. When I get past that little spot where I've got 4 different ends all connecting at once, kind of in the same area. They weren't all exactly in the same area. I wouldn't want to graft both ends at the same place, because then you would have a weaker spot. Okay, now that we're getting back to where it's a little bit more green, this will start looking better. If I were concerned about that weak point there, I would just automatically do a reverse wrap and just double this, and then I wouldn't have to worry about that as much, because I would make sure I wouldn't end up with two weaker, potentially weaker sections overlapping each other. That way they would kind of reinforce each other a little bit. This one's toward me, this one's away. It doesn't really matter which one goes toward and which one goes away, as long as you're consistent. It's easier for me to say that my left hand's going to go away and my right hand's going to go toward. Straighten out as you go along. Kind of trying to hurry a little bit so my tension isn't as even as I would prefer for it to be. I need to actually probably tighten that back, tighten this up some. I'm going to tighten this one little section up some because I got a little bit too loose there. It can be a little bit tedious. I'm getting close down here to the end, and then I'll show you how to do the go over it again to double the thickness if you like. If you feel like you need to for your application, you may not need to. You may want to. See here, I'm getting to the end. This would be a good spot to add another piece on this one side if I were really wanting to make this longer. And I have enough cordage that I could. I just don't really feel like making more. Okay, so here's our cord. And we got kind of a weird lump here where I had to add an extra piece there. There we go. Okay. Here is my cord holding up a 32 ounce. See the 32 ounce Powerade bottle. It's doing just fine. And if I wanted to double this, I'll just quickly show you how to do that. Get that off of there. That could actually hold a lot more weight. I just didn't know what else I would have around that would be like that. Okay, so we're going to do, if I wanted to double this again, I would do the same thing. I would do a reverse wrap, but I would wrap it the opposite the way that I did before, or just switch it in your hand if you wanted to make sure, because I kind of like that left is like gone, so left is away and right is toward, but I'm doing this backwards now. What I would do is I would just reverse wrap it again, and as you can see here, if you keep the tension tight, which I'm not really doing so much, you can actually end up with a thicker rope. There we go. And I made this out of cattail cordage. really actually, this is really actually some pretty strong stuff, because I'm really yanking on this, see? Good stuff. Anyway, this is Tracy with Indiana Bushcrafters. Thanks for watching. And here is my natural cordage holding up a 101.4 ounce Ice Mountain water bottle. And it's holding it just fine. Yeah, it's my natural cattail cordage. Sorry, you can't see it so good. That's it. There she is.